This short lecture dedicated gastric pathogen Helicobacter pylori and link this bug with gastric cancer. And this we will talk about how this bacteria lead to gastric cancer and some additional information about it. Okay, it's gastric adenocarcinoma or gastric cancer is still very widespread disease, and now is this very high incidence we can find in Asia, Central and South America, and Eastern Europe. It's most of localization in stomach, it's corpus and antrum of pylorus. So less gastric carcinomas we can find in the North Europe and USA, but in this case it's mostly it's cardiac and fundal localization. Gastric cancer is still very fatal and keep third place in cancer-related mortality. It's about 1 million people died every year. In this disease was more common before era of fridges. In spoiled food often increase risk of gastric cancer. It's gastric cancer. Was more common. It's before of first part of 20th centuries. But nowadays we can see these cancers around the world, and we can see this Asia, Eastern Europe, and in the South America is more prone to gastric cancer. Most widespread factor for gastric cancer and gastric cancerogen number one is Helicobacter pylori infection. Of course, another problem is rubber manufacturing industry, tobacco smoking, and different type of radiation. It's on this slide we can see spreading of Helicobacter pylori around the world. It's very important gastric cancerogen. It's Helicobacter pylori can produce peptic ulcer and stomach cancer. It's gram-negative bacteria, and which can cause very long-term infection, and probably more than half of population Earth have this infection. But this infection have different quality in different regions because Helicobacter pylori have lots of strains with different properties. Some strains dangerous, and other strains is cannot cause significant changes in stomach. These properties related of some proteins of virulence which can present in this bacteria. An example is adgesins can give possibility to tied with connect with gastric epithelium. Uh, it's most famous gastric adhesions. It's in other names of Helicobacter outer membrane proteins. It's Hop C, Babay, Hop P, Sabay. It's on in case of gastritis on inflamed mucosa. Hop Z, Hop CB, and Hop Q. Uh, Usually, Helicobacter pylori binding by these proteins to gastric mucosa, and this binding depends of ABO Lewis B antigens. These same antigens can cause difference in the blood group between different people. Uh, uh, what another proteins can cause problem and can cause start transformation into gastric carcinoma? It is Kagei factor. It's Vacay and multiple combination of multiple virulent factors in this bacteria, which increase to gastrointestinal rate of gastrointestinal metaplasia, inflammation, and the development of this lead to development gastric cancer. Also, Helicobacter pylori have urease, which can help survive this bacteria in acidic uh, environment of stomach. Viral shape and flagellae. This viral shape and the flagellae, it's like motor in some form which can speeding moving this bug into gas in stomach and in tissues. Okay, it's we today we cannot discuss about gastric cancer, but it's now it's time. Most widespread and simplest classification of gastric cancer is classification by Loren in mid of 60s. It is all gastric cancers divided on intestinal type and diffuse type. Of course, it's present some intermediate and mixed variant, but this simply have two main types of gastric cancer. Diffuse, usually diffuse cancer, gastric cancer, it's spreading into gastric wall and usually is invisible by biopsy, endoscopy. And the intestinal have exophytic type of growth formation, some ulcers, some polyps, and more easy to detect this type of cancer. It's close to this time of Loren classification in Japan. Prevalent is Nakamura classification, which depends of maturity of tumor cells is differentiated cancer and undifferentiated type of cancer. Newest classification of gastric cancer is also Japanese and International World Health Organization. It's a very close to this, very close by some sense of this classifications, and it's divided on papillary type of adenocarcinoma, gastric cancer, tubular, and some signet ring cell phenotype or purely cohesive cell phenotype when this tumor cells not produce some complex like glands and spread individually. It spread by inside of connective tissue or in the submucous layer. Another type is mucinous. It's tumors which produce lots of mucins. Nowadays, very important is genetic and molecular classification. This helps understand of development tumor and treat this problem. It's a first group of molecular section of this gastric tumor. It's Epstein-Barr viral positive gastric cancer with PDL1 amplification. It's open gate for this open possibility to treat this tumor by immunotherapy and block by blocking PDL1 receptors. Another part of tumors contain of microsatellite unstable phenotype. This mutation runs by mismatch repair gens problem. More rare cancer, it's cancer with genomically stable genotype, phenotype. It's this type of tumors contain GPS activating proteins. And gastric carcinoma, last part is probably most widespread and most common type of gastric cancer is chromosomal instability with amplification of epidermal growth factors receptors, different types, fibroblast growth factors, and the problem with system of control, apoptosis control is protein P53, and also problem with E-cadherin. It's poor cohesivity. E-cadherin causes a structure of glands. If in case of this lack of this protein or some mutation and not functionally this protein, in case if this protein not functional, it's lead to poor cohesivity and spreading tumor cells. Okay, it's some table is a list of mutation. It's probably most interesting for some scientific purpose. But admit, please, this diffuse and intestinal type by Loren classification is most of intestinal type tumors. It is chromosomal unstable phenotype. Another question is precancer, stomach precancerous disease. It's very important because it's this type of cancer not starts like de novo. All this oncological pathology have some background. First stage of this classification is absence of dysplasia. Have some background like gastritis without dysplasia. Next is some indefinite type of dysplasia. We call this low-grade dysplasia of stomach. Usually, these changes we can find in polyps and adenomas. Of course, gastrointestinal polyps, which contains dysplasia, it's called adenomas. It's common rule for bowel diseases, stomach diseases. Uh, Next stage is high-grade dysplasia. It's we can see lots of stratifying levels inside of glands, and the nucleus in this nucleus epithelium in this epithelium on different levels, and some signs of atypism of these cells. But we cannot see we can see spreading these cells in surrounding tissues. And most dangerous in this precancerous disease is intramucosal invasive neoplasia. It's like cancer in situ without infiltrative type of growth, but looks like cancer by presence signs of cellular atypism. Another question is related, more related with gastritis. Is gastritic uh, its new system for assessment of gastritis. It's name of Olga system or operative link gastric assessment. It's like acronym of this score um, used for assessment gastric biopsies and uh, estimate level of atrophy. It's more atrophy, more risk for cancer. It's in a very short explanation. Okay, okay. It's this is it was most appropriate information because next information like more for scientific conference, but it's some general information about